Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do called Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor, and it is Friday, so as is tradition, unless I'm feeling lazy that day, it is time for another Fatal Friday video. Fatal Friday is a series where I look back on the videos where I went into the Kombat League for Mortal Kombat 1, and I tried getting unique finishers like Brutalities and Fatalities. Last week, whenever I had the pair-up of Li Mei and the Kameo Stryker, I ended up pulling off the busted Brutality for Stryker. But throughout that video, I was trying to go for a different Brutality. The one I was trying to get was It Goes Boom. So after trying and failing to get that Brutality a bunch of times in the previous video, I figured why not follow up this week with a video where I actually got it. So what made the It Goes Boom Brutality especially difficult to get in the previous video was that it's Stryker's grenade throw, which is 3 different grenades. To get this Brutality, you have to be a jumping distance away from your opponent, which is always a little bit tricky when they are constantly moving. On top of that, the very first of the grenades that you throw has to be the one that kills your opponent. After that, the second and the third grenade should kick off the Brutality. But only 1 out of 3 grenades is not going to be very strong, so your opponent has to be pretty weak whenever you hit them with those grenades. And overall, the main problem I was having with Li Mei whenever she was paired up with Stryker was that it was really hard to keep the opponent at just the right distance whenever throwing those grenades. Because I did manage to weaken them quite a bit with Li Mei last week, but the distance was never right. More often than not, I was missing with the grenades. So after a bunch of failures trying to get that Brutality while paired up with Li Mei, I went ahead and switched up, so Stryker is now going to be working with the main roster Sub-Zero. And the main reason for that change is just going to be the fact that Sub-Zero can freeze the opponent. That kind of makes Sub-Zero my go-to character for any Kameo Brutalities that are giving me trouble. Because anytime you can hold the opponent in place even for just a little while, that is incredibly useful whenever trying to get these Brutalities. And I figured that would be the thing that made the difference whenever trying to get that distance just right with those grenades. The only thing left to do was find the right opponent where I could actually pull that off. Which is easier said than done whenever they have to be on just a sliver of health whenever you hit them with those grenades. Because sometimes even just freezing them with Sub-Zero will kill the opponent before you throw those grenades, and I don't know for sure if that Brutality will even activate if they have already had all their health depleted. So yeah, still pretty tricky even with Sub-Zero. Which on that note, the pairing of Sub-Zero and the Kameo Stryker was not one of my favorites. Whenever using Sub-Zero, a wide variety of cameos can be useful. My personal favorites are always going to be Serena and Janet Cage. But with the way I want to play Sub-Zero, Stryker really did not have that much to offer. So whenever it came to most of the fights I was doing against people, I was pretty much using Sub-Zero without a Kameo. And that is definitely not the greatest way to succeed whenever going into the Kombat League, so I had a pretty bad losing streak going on. On top of that, whenever I was close to killing the opponent, I would deliberately ease up on them and try to get the Brutality, which would just drag on the fight even longer and give them plenty of opportunities to come back and beat me, which definitely did happen on a few occasions. That's where the whole finding the right opponent thing was very important. And that brings me to my opponents in the Kombat League on this occasion. I randomly got paired up against somebody using Rain and the Kameo Sonya. Now this person did not have the greatest record, they're winning like every 1 out of 3 fights. So that gave me the idea that this person might be the kind of opponent that I was looking for, because I was going to need a good amount of luck to get this Brutality. I just couldn't really find any ways of making the Brutality consistent. And overall, this really was not close. This person does pick up 1 victory against me in the set, but that was largely due to me doing exactly what I described just a moment ago. Getting the opponent super close to death, then running away and trying to get the Brutality and just leaving them in the fight long enough for them to come back and beat me. You are going to see it more in the 3rd round of this second match, but my opponent ends up getting knocked all the way down to being only 1 hit away from death. And I think I was near max health. And I just kind of dragged on the fight for as long as possible trying to get the Brutality, but doing everything I could not to kill them in any other way because I did not want to waste this opportunity to get the Brutality. I was fully willing to go ahead and throw away one of these matches just to keep it going. And that's nothing against my opponent, they may have been new to using Rain or something like that. But there was definitely a little bit of a difference competitively. And I'm definitely not bragging because I am fully a casual player. I am not amazing at this game at all. I mean, you saw my record at the start of this as well, and I had a losing record. I had lost more than I had won. Granted, a lot of that was due to me screwing around trying to get this Brutality, but still they are losses and they count. And here it is, the aforementioned round where I screwed around so much that I gave my opponent the greatest comeback they may have ever achieved. Because at one point in this fight, I was leading with about 760 health versus them only having 20. They were like 1 hit away from death. But despite having that much success early in the round, At that point, I began to run away from Rain and try to keep him at just the right distance so I could get the brutality. I was even too scared to try and freeze him because I felt like freezing him would do just enough damage to kill him. And again, I was not sure if I could get the brutality if he was already technically dead. I know you can combo into a bunch of different brutalities, but I do not know if this is one of them. So after having a gigantic lead and definitely every opportunity in the world to win this match, I refuse to do so and just keep running away from Rain, and he keeps chasing after me and refusing to stay at the distance necessary for that brutality. So rather than getting the brutality or winning the match, what it turns into is Sub-Zero just hopping away continuously the entire fight and occasionally getting hit and then hopping away even more, until eventually my opponent manages to just chip away at me and get rid of that whole 700 health lead thing. And man, as I am describing that, I had to be the most annoying person to fight against when trying to get this brutality. I said that back whenever I was still playing as Lee Mei against Sonya last week, but it is still true here. I swear I try not to be that annoying when fighting people, but there was just no other way to get this brutality. I was probably the worst opponent to have. I don't even feel like my opponents winning over me whenever I was doing that made it worth it. I'm sure it was frustrating as hell. So yeah, to all the random opponents I got in the Kombat League and I tried getting this brutality against, again, my bad. I swear it wasn't anything personal. I just really wanted this brutality. And I was so happy when I finally got it so I could stop screwing around that much and wasting everybody's time, including my own. And that was the second match of the set. Rain ends up taking it as I screw around way too much in that fight. But hey, a win is a win, and Rain did everything he needed to come back in that fight and win, so it was earned even if I was just fucking around a bunch. I mean, you can only fight who is in front of you, and I did not do nearly enough to win. So now we are going into a third and final match, which gives me one more opportunity to try and get this brutality against Rain. And I had to admit, after the way the previous match went, I began to wonder if I would do the exact same thing if it came down to it, allowing Rain to win while I was prioritizing the brutality, which I was so determined to get this brutality that I was pretty willing to do that. And I remember thinking to myself, regardless of who wins this fight, if I do not get that brutality, I am probably going to go ahead and send him a friendly rematch, because in match number 1 and match number 2, I came close a bunch of different times. So this really felt like the set where I could finally maybe get this brutality, and I really did not want to waste that. After all, I had been trying to get this brutality for a while, and granted, it was nowhere near as bad as stuff like the Taste of Blood brutality for Nitara, or the Kablooey brutality for Havoc, or the For Johnny brutality for the Kameo Janet Cage, but this was still taking a considerable amount of effort and time. Okay, he's nearly dead and he's frozen, it's time to go for the brutality.
Brutality! Sub-Zero wins.
And finally, it is over. That was the It Goes Boom brutality for the Kameo Stryker. And man, thank you to my randomly paired up opponent in the Kombat League this time around. I know it wasn't the most competitive fight, but thank you to the Rain user. I have been going for that brutality just a bunch of different times. And I could not have been more thrilled and relieved to be done with that one and ready to move on to something different. Congratulations on picking up a pretty cool comeback victory in one of the matches in this set, and overall, I'm leaving pretty happy having accomplished what I wanted to do. Now I will be sure to show the It Goes Boom brutality one more time at the very end of this outro, that way we can all enjoy it one more time before we part ways on this Fatal Friday. But yeah, this one was kind of tricky. Granted, the conditions for it are not the most complicated, but it's just trying to get the right combination of a very weak opponent standing just in the right spot without moving, and yeah, that does not tend to happen a lot, so this one took some effort. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start wrapping things up here. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out the other things I have on the Thor's Entertainment channel. I do have a bunch of other finisher videos just like this for Mortal Kombat 1. Those can be found under the Fatal Friday playlists. Besides those, I have played through a bunch of other games as well. I have playthroughs of the remakes of Resident Evil 1 and 2, and I'm currently working on a playthrough of the remake of Resident Evil 3. I've also played through other games like Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, and Crash Bandicoot. And of course, there's plenty of other Mortal Kombat stuff there as well if that's all you're really interested in, so feel free to check it out. Regardless of what you choose to do though, thank you for checking out this video for this long. I hope you enjoyed it, take care, and hopefully I will see you next time.
Brutality! Sub-Zero wins.